What's up, heroes? Welcome to the Producer Life Podcast, episode 78. Today we're joined by Keith Piazza, who's worked in music licensing at Universal Music Group for the last 5 years. Keith has worked with some of the biggest artists in the industry, helping them negotiate fees to license their music for TV, movies, and video games. In this episode, Keith offers networking tips for landing your dream job, talks about what it's like working for a major record label, and discusses trends in music licensing. But first, cue the intro music. All right, Keith, welcome to the Producer Life Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am excited about this. You're our first speaker from Universal Music Group, and I'm looking forward to getting sort of that big industry perspective.
I'm excited to be here, and hopefully I can help share with you and your listeners some insight of what it's like working for one of the major music companies.
So take us back in history a little bit. How did you get to where you are today? And
all right, so basically, I mean, I'm a musician first. I started playing trumpet and drums back in 5th grade and 6th grade, and as I got older, I started to, want to be a professional musician like everybody else, but knew that I really didn't have the chops for it. So I decided to go down the music business route. And the two things I love are music and TV and film. So I just felt that that was the perfect way to join two of my passions together. And so I went to school for music business. And then upon graduating, as part of my graduation requirements, I did an internship, which got me into music clearance for TV and film. And I started out with that, and I was working on the opposite side of where I'm at now, working for a company where we represented one of the studios and would have to go to people like me and other people at the majors, either the publishers or the labels, and get permission to use the music and negotiate deals. And so I did that for about 6 months. And then I went on to work at Cobalt Music Publishing, which is a big indie publisher. And that was more of a assisting type role internship. And once I concluded that, after about 9-10 months, I got my job over at Universal Music Publishing Group. And I've been here for the last 5 years now. And so that's kind of what got me the little process of how I got to where I'm at today. But it's been a long journey, and it's been good. It's been good. I have no complaints whatsoever.
that's awesome. It almost sounds like your career has sort of taken this textbook trajectory from formal education and interest in music to multiple different internships, a little bit of diverse job experience, and then on to Universal. I can almost hear a high school guidance counselor going, all right, do this next, do this next.
I mean, that's so true. And it's like, I haven't actually thought about it that way. Like, I've always been told that, when working in the music industry, it's all about who you know, not what you know. And, the relationships that I've built during my internships and other networking has gotten me to where I am, because I worked with the people that I work with today that I'm colleagues with now. I worked with them when I was doing my internship. So yeah, I followed that: go to school, get your degree, make the connections, do the grunt work for the little pay, and then, and it pays off. And I was really, really excited when I had the opportunity to come work at Universal. It was one that was at the top of my list from the time I was in college, and it's all worked out. So it's great.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you talked about the importance of networking there, and we've talked in past with guests about that. But what would you say you did differently? I'm sure you had a lot of peers that would have also loved to have worked for Universal Music Group. What did you do that was maybe unique to distinguish yourself when you were networking during the internships, et cetera?
So The thing that helped me the most was when I was doing my degree. The head of our music department, or our music industry studies department, he was actually roommates with the guy that I interned for first, this guy named Matt Lilly. Um, and so when I had approached the head of our department, basically told him like, "Hey, this is what I want to do with my career." Um, he's like, "I've got the perfect person for you to do your internship with. I used to be his roommate. Like, he, he'll he'll guide you the right ways." And so doing that internship was basically what opened up all the doors, because it allowed me to work with different people at the various labels and publishers on a daily basis, so that I could build those connections and friendships, whatever you want to call it, basically. But that was what I did. And I actually have several colleagues who interned at the same place as I did, and they now work for Warner and Concord and Roundhill, and they work for other various big publishers and labels. So for me, the starting internship was really what helped me get to where I was. So for anybody who would be trying to do what I'm doing, I would recommend that, trying to find that one internship, um, to really like work for somebody who's connected and has worked with everybody in the industry, or is known throughout the industry, because that will definitely, help you make friends with other people and gain knowledge in areas that you don't really have much in, and help excel what you want to do.
Okay. So you certainly put yourself in a good place by going to a school for music. Put yourself in a good location where good things could happen. Then there was this element of maybe a little bit of luck that your professor happened to be roommates with this gentleman. But then obviously you did a great job fostering those relationships and maintaining those, because you commented that you still interact with a lot of those people today. What any particular tips for people for networking in terms of building and maintaining relationships in the music industry? I mean, are you sending out birthday cards or?
For me, it's like what I naturally gravitate towards certain people. And obviously there's always going to be people that you just don't mesh well with. It's just, you don't click. And I've found that when I really gravitate towards somebody, and there's a clear connection there, I try to keep in touch, either shoot them emails here and there, give them a call, shoot them a text, just anything
Okay.
that just shows that you're not just somebody who's trying to get your foot in the door, but you're actually somebody who cares, and creating a real relationship, opposed to a surface level one to just, yeah, get your foot in the door, I think makes a huge difference. So yeah.
Okay. Terrific. If we could, let's move forward a little bit. And obviously, you are in the sync licensing business. Can you give my listeners a general sense of what sync licensing is? Some of them may not be familiar with the term. What are we talking about here?
All right. So what I specifically do is music clearance. But in the overall sync licensing world, basically, if somebody wants to use music within a production, be it TV, film, advertising, you need to get permission from the people who own that music, be it the record label, the publisher who represents the songwriters, or the artists or songwriters themselves. And so when you set up that agreement and negotiate a deal, basically you're creating a sync license, is as general as it can be. Um, so yeah, so my overall role would be representing the songwriters and working on their behalf to help secure a license with a TV studio or a film studio, so that the music, our songwriters' music, can be used within that production.
Okay. So are the terms music licensing and music clearance, is that sort of one and the same?
They all, I feel like they all are in the same general bubble. There's people on my team that specifically draft agreements, and they are the people that handle the physical licensing. Clearance wise, I negotiate points and deals, or deal points, and fees and terms and things like that, but I don't personally draft the licenses. So the music clearance would be, I'm getting the permission from our rights holders, or our clients on behalf on their behalf for the TV and film studios.
Okay. Can you kind of walk us through the workflow from somebody finishing up their master copy, publishing it, to it getting cleared and in some major TV show? What are the steps and the wickets that has to hit, and how does that typically progress?
So typically, so the people that I work with on a daily basis are people over at the studios, and they approach me and they say, hey, we really want to use this song in our film or in our TV show. And we talk about all the points and all the terms that they might need and the specific scene descriptions and things like that. um, and then I go to our songwriters, because working on the publishing side of things, we represent the songwriters. So it might not necessarily be the person who sings the song, but the person behind the door that wrote the song for them, either a pop star or hip hop or something like that. So when somebody wants their music to be used in a TV show, you know, ideally you need to make a connection with somebody who, like a music supervisor, somebody who has the ability and connections with the studio to be like, hey, we want to use this song in the show. It's from an artist that I like. This would be great. And then you work with the director and whoever else in production needs to sign off to get it to that next spot. Typically when the studio comes to us, it's for music that we would already have, be it something that was just released last week, or a back catalog song. Not necessarily they're coming to us to create something specific for them. Typically the film studio or the music supervisor who's working on the film, if they want something custom made, they'll either have the composer do it, or that they'll seek out an artist that they might want to do it. But generally, the stuff that I deal with is just pre-existing music, that they want to license and use in their production.
Got it. And so your big role, you're a negotiator. You are negotiating the fees and how much it's going to cost the studio to use that piece of content, depending on the length and what are some of the other. Am I right in describing your job there? Is that
That's spot on. Yeah,
okay?
I'm the middleman between the studio and the musician.
Okay, but I imagine the musicians love you because when you've done a good job, they get paid more. Is that fair?
Exactly. Yeah, we represent them, so you know their best interests are always at the top of the list for us. So be it trying to get a better fee that's more fair for the use, or saying, hey, you guys want to use this song, but they have this new song coming out that we also feel would be a good fit. Maybe you guys want to take a look at this one. So yeah, we represent our songwriters 100% and try to get the best deal possible for them every time.
Okay. Can you? What are some of the factors that you look at in when you are negotiating with a studio for the fee for a particular song?
So ba- it first depends on the caliber of the production and the caliber of the song. So say we're looking at a big TV show. Um, just you can just name anyone that you'd see on primetime TV. The first thing we look at is who the artist is, or what the song is. If it's a big songwriter or a big song itself, that typically will increase the fee. But we'll look at the scene description, how long they want to use it for, if it's for, you know, a, a big scene, or if it's just background music, if it's an end title or a theme song. And once we have all the information about the specific use, then depending on what the caliber of the song is or the artist, that kind of gives us a general idea of where we would price that out. Um, for TV, fee ranges can be, starting at around $1,000, and I've seen them go up to, $80,000, $100,000 even.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that typically a one-off, or is there back-end royalties frequently associated with that?
So for TV shows and film and pretty much every other media, with the exception of like video games, it's typically an upfront fee that's collected for the publishing, and they also have to pay the record label for the master recording rights, and then it's just one and done.
Okay. And how do video games differ?
So video games, it depends on the game itself. If it's a music-driven game, we typically operate on a advance plus a royalty model. So that would mean that they, say they give us $1,000 up front for the song, and then for 15% of the the revenue that's generated in that game, then that 15% is spread amongst all the songs, so there's an ongoing royalty, um, or a per unit rate that the production or the video game producer would have to pay to the songwriters or the record label.
Interesting. Why do you think the fee models differ between video games and movies?
I think it's the way that it's more interactive, and with a film, music can support a storyline, but they're not the people don't go to a movie or watch a TV show because only because of the music. Whereas music driven video games, like, say a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band like that, if music wasn't there, a product would not be there and an experience wouldn't be there. So that the ongoing necessity to have music, I drives that necessity to have an ongoing royalty.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. To what degree are the artists involved in that sort of back and forth negotiation with the studios?
So I deal directly with them separately. I will either, talk to a manager, the artist directly, the lawyer that represents them. And usually, it's the process is I go to them and present them with the deal, and, we can chat about different points and what we feel is fair, or if there's another song that they want them to use instead. Um, but from my experience, the interaction between the artist and the studio directly isn't there on a day-to-day basis, unless, say the studio is hiring an artist to create a song specifically for a film.
Okay, so it is, you are very much the middleman. You are the
Ex-
negotiator, but after you craft a deal, then you go back and to the artist or the songwriter and say, "What do you think about this?"
exactly. I say, hey, this is where we think this should be. This is what they want to use it for. Basically, tell me yes or no. If you have questions, we're here to answer. And then what I'll do is, once I have permission, I'll go back to the TV and or film studio and be like, hey, this is what we can approve it at. Here's all the terms and details. And then, if, say, we tell them it's going to be $10,000, but they wanted it $5,000, then we go with our negotiations, or begin our negotiations, and go from there.
I'm, I'm picturing TV negotiations where there's a lot of theatrics involved. I'm assuming that in a more corporate environment, that's not the case. But what does that negotiation look like?
I mean, most of the time it's them, once we quote a specific fee for a use, they come back and will sometimes tell us, hey, our budget can't afford this, or what if we make the use shorter, or if we put it in this scene instead of this scene. Um, it's not like some crazy thing that that you would see in movies or on TV shows. It's pretty straightforward, and the people that I work with, I've been working with them for 4 or 5 years. So a lot of the time, I'll just hop on the phone with them and be like, "Hey, you know, we really need this to be up here. We know that you need it here, but let's just let's find the middle ground." And it's a
Okay.
lot of the time it's just a friendly conversation because I deal with these people daily, multiple times a day, and um, you gotta keep good relationships.
Do you find you do most of your negotiating on the phone, or do you kick off the negotiations initially over an email, or what's stylistically, how do you negotiate fees?
I'd say about 90% of what I do is through email. Um, but there are those times where, when things aren't straightforward and it's easier just to hop on a call, and talk it out. Or, if there might be something that shouldn't be put in writing, be it like something confidential about a production or something like that. Sometimes it's easier just to get on the phone and talk about it so that I can get on the phone with our client and be like, "Hey, not going to email you this, but this is this is what's going on."
Yeah. Do you, over the last year during the pandemic, did you wind up doing a lot of these negotiations over video conferences, or did you stick to the phone, or do you do a lot of web conferences?
I do Zoom calls, but usually it's not on a deal to deal basis. Usually when I do like a Zoom conference or, a Zoom call, it's when we're discussing say a new video game is going to be coming out in the next year or so, and we discuss the different aspects of it to just kind of get a general idea of what they're looking at prior to taking the next step. So my Zoom calls, my Zoom fatigue comes from those types of interactions. But yeah, from working in the office to now working from home, till who knows when. Um, it's it's pretty much, it hasn't changed much. Surprisingly, I don't get to see my coworkers in person anymore, which is kind of a
Hmm.
bummer. But soon enough.
Yeah. So you guys are still most of, I don't know if you can characterize most of your department, all your department uh, are still virtual.
Yeah, as far as I know, pretty much every single person in our office. I'm sure there's exceptions there that I'm not aware of, but everybody in my department, yeah, we're currently still working from home, and I believe that's kind of how it is with most of the music companies right now, just for the foreseeable future. But with things getting better, I could see us being back in the office at least 1 or 2 days a week, towards the end of this year, which will be nice.
Okay. Aside from the Zoom fatigue, how has it worked for you?
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's it makes the work life balance, a lot easier, um, as well as productivity levels. You don't have the distractions of being in an office and around other people. So,
Hmm.
my wife goes to work every day, or she does now. She has to go back into her work, and so I wake up, I eat my breakfast, and I start working, and then I put in my time, and I don't have those distractions like a coworker popping into your office or you popping into somebody else's office. So I love it. Like I said, I do miss seeing my coworkers because I consider them my friends.
Hmm.
And but the the freedom of working from home has been quite nice.
Do you think, have there been any rumblings or things that you are hearing in the music industry? Obviously, for performers, once the pandemic is under control, everybody wants to get back out on stage.
Yep.
That's a given. But from sort of the industry perspective, do you see a lot of the industry changing to a more hybrid work schedule, or are you already getting pressure of, well, as soon as everybody can be back in the office, there's so much infrastructure here we've paid for, we need everybody to fill up these offices. What's sort
I
of where do you think Universal is headed?
I could see a hybrid approach being taken. honestly, like, you know, the discussions that are had at Universal, like with the HR department and stuff like that, I'm not privy to those, but from people I've talked to and people I've talked to at other companies, it sounds like a hybrid approach is the way things are heading, and I think that's going to be the case outside the music industry as well. Um, I think for people's personal well-being and work-life balance, it really makes a big difference, and I you know I see it go in that direction, and I sure hope it does.
Yeah, I've enjoyed. I can't say I've enjoyed the pandemic, but working from home has been nice. Obviously as a producer, I spend a lot of time sitting at the computer anyway, so
Hmm.
it didn't change a lot from that perspective. But um, it I have heard the criticism that it on the one hand it's nice for work life balance. You don't have a commute, you get back a lot of time there. But on the flip side, there are some circumstances where bosses feel very comfortable bringing you into a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Zoom call at 7 o'clock at night because, well, you're still at the quote unquote office. You didn't see any of that. You felt like you've had a better balance.
Yeah, fortunately, the department that and I mean the company that I work for is really great about that work-life balance. So I haven't had any cases where I've been roped into a meeting. Yeah, what would be considered, the end of the day or after hours. I have scheduled some early meetings and some late meetings, but that's usually because of time zone differences, which would happen for me if I was in the office anyways. So yeah, it's been good, and I think everybody in my department would agree with me that it's nice to not have to commute to work.
Yeah. It sounds like Universal has a remarkable sort of supportive corporate culture. What is it like working for a major label like Universal, where you've got you're absolutely immersed in the music and entertainment business? How is that different than maybe? Well, I guess all of your experience has been with the music industry. So I don't know if you can draw a comparison there, but what is it like working for a company where everything is about the music and the art?
I mean, I absolutely love it. If I didn't, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd be off somewhere swimming in the ocean. Um, but yeah, it's been great. At least the working for Universal, if you have ever have an issue, either work related or personal related, I there's always a door that's open that I can walk through and sort something out. Everybody on my team is wonderful, super supportive. Everybody wants to see everybody succeed. Um,
Okay.
and so I've definitely felt that while being here. People are pushing everybody like, hey, we want to see you at the next level. Everybody helps each other out. And going into big corporate is or whatever you want to call it, there's always going to be drawbacks, but I've been fortunate to not experience what you would see characterized on TV or you know or something like that, or the show or the movie Office Space. I haven't
Yeah.
experienced that big corporate BS that a lot of people would talk about.
That's terrific. Well, I'm glad your dream job has remained your dream job. Uh, what would you say is the most memorable experience you've had at Universal?
Hmm. I mean, I'd say probably the most memorable stuff that we've done is when artists have come into our office, and we'll just be hanging out, and then all of a sudden, some big name person will come in, and you hear the piano playing from the community room area, and you walk over there, and it's somebody that you've listened to your whole life just sitting down and jamming on the piano for a couple minutes before they go into a meeting. um, just random things like that, meeting people that or talking on the phone, or having interactions with people that you never thought you would, or you know it's that you've listened to their music, but then your whole life, and then one day they're calling you to talk to you about this show that they're interested in, or this project that they want to see their music in. And I wouldn't say there's a specific thing that I could pinpoint, but it's just all those little things combined together is what's made it great.
Yeah, getting to uh, interact with all of those stars, that's got to be that's got to be a great experience, and particularly in your position where they're happy to talk with you because you're getting them money. Um, so that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Um, do you do you see any broad industry trends in terms of licensing, or um, are there any big demographic shifts that you can cite, things that a producer would be interested in knowing about?
I mean, from what I've noticed over the last, like, 5 or 6 years, is with the with what people are currently licensing. Yeah, it does come in waves. Like, there was a time where everybody was looking for, those moody, dark covers of big, huge popular songs from the 70s and 80s, something that, was a happy-go-lucky song and then turned into something, that might be in a horror film. Um, so I noticed trends like that. I mean, honestly, that was probably like the one that was around, and then it went away, and then it came back. So that I see that one a lot. That trend. You'll I mean, just watching TV show trailers and film trailers, you'll pick up on it. But I nowadays, the thing that I've noticed most is people exploring outside of top 40, um, even more than they already have in the past. Um, from my personal experience watching TV shows, like, and different films, the amount of music that's coming from overseas, be it a French artist or a German artist, or some music coming out of Africa, or South America, it's growing. And I think that's going to be I think that's kind of where things are going to go more, just exploration into different sounds of the world, opposed to just sticking to cookie cutter top 40.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and as a fan of music, like world music, I I think that's awesome. And there's so many great musicians out there, and smaller musicians or producers that don't get the recognition that they should. And I think the access now to all these different types of music, you're going to see it popping up more in TV and film, because I can go listen to somebody who made, a song in their basement, who lives, 20,000 miles away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 20 years ago, it was a lot more difficult.
Yeah, certainly the barrier to entry as a musician has gone way down, which probably partly explains why Spotify gets 30 or 40,000 submissions a day for new music. It's both wonderful that it is easy to get into, but it's also sort of daunting because there's so much music out there. It's hard to get noticed as an artist.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think as it became easier for people to create music at home and not have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on studio time or equipment, but simple something as simple as buying $1,000 laptop and being able to create something that sounds like it was recorded in a studio. Um, I feel like it's almost, yeah, oversaturated the market, and making it more difficult for new artists to be recognized. Um, but that being said, I also think it helps push the creativity levels of what musicians are comfortable with doing, and pushing them outside of their comfort zones to explore new sounds and different styles and mashing of genres. And I mean, you can hear something nowadays that you never ever thought that you would hear samba music and techno mixed together. And you can find it now, and it's great. So it's a lot more difficult, but I feel like the quality of stuff
Yeah.
that's coming out is going up.
I recently recently stumbled across a genre, bardcore. I don't know if it's a thing outside of YouTube, but there's several different groups out there that do sort of medieval cover versions of pop songs, which is just very strange and wonderful to listen to at the same time. So,
I've never heard of that, but I'm definitely going to be looking that up as soon as we get off this call.
um, what do you have any good stories of artists that you have met and interactions with them, or are you allowed to discuss that?
I I would love to discuss it, but unfortunately, I don't want to get into details, just
Okay.
because it's not. I don't feel comfortable with that, unfortunately. But I will say that I've met and talked with musicians that have had, number one Billboard songs for weeks on end, and met even actors and comedians and people that I've worked with on different projects that have been great. But I, unfortunately, I'm not I can't share anything more than that.
Okay, that's totally fair. Now, you did say something interesting there. You said you've worked with actors and comedians. I thought your focus or your exclusive job was working for the songwriters. What do actors and comedians? How do you interact with them, and what's your role there?
So that would be more, not necessarily working with them on like on their acting or their comedy shows, but there's been several cases where I've had popular people come to us and say like, hey, we're working on this passion project, or I'm trying to put a documentary together about this or about my career. And so I've ended up being lucky enough to work with some of these people directly, because they, instead of hiring somebody to do the music supervision and get the music rights for them, they want to do it themselves. And so I've had conversations and met several comedians and actors that just have these passion projects and just kind of need some guidance on the music licensing world, so that they can get, their favorite song from when they were growing up in their little indie film or something like that.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, well, paying it forward. If so, if any of my listeners have follow-on questions or things that we didn't cover in the podcast, is there a way that they can reach out to you? Is there something? What's the best way to find you?
I'm on Facebook, but I don't really use it. It's a little too toxic for me these days. Um, it I I have LinkedIn. I believe it's just Keith Piazza. People
Okay.
can feel free to shoot me a message there. I don't check it regularly, but, or maybe once every week or two. And then Instagram as well. Keith.piazza is my Instagram profile. And if people want to shoot me a message and maybe ask me a question or two, like, I'm happy to spread the knowledge.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, I really appreciate your time tonight, and it's been a really interesting interview. And thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here, and being the first podcast I've done, it was fun.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad I could be your first.
Cool.
Hey, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'd love to feature some of your reviews on the podcast, so please take a moment and leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Also, this Friday, July 9th, I'm dropping a very special mix on YouTube and Mixcloud. This is my first set that features exclusively my remixes, edits, and original music. I'm really excited to share this with you guys, so make sure you subscribe over at youtube.com/houseninjamusic or mixcloud.com/houseninjamusic. Until next time, this is the House Ninja reminding you to be somebody's hero today.